How we doing?
Hey, Forrest.
Forrest, how we doing?
It's going good, brother. It's going
Yeah.
good. Y'all
You're,
looking,
s-
y'all looking good. Bringing in the new year well, huh?
Yeah, yeah. It's been fucking insane last since we talked last. COVID. Um, I'm really getting kind of and I know Forrest, you had it. Starting to kind
Yeah,
of worry that I might be getting into long COVID territory. It's been 3 weeks. I'm still fucking tired, man. Like,
yeah, man. I told you that's what killed me. It was like, ooh. And I think I'm still having issues with that because I tell you what, and I got to get a nice rest. I was driving home, and for some reason, I just got drowsy. I mean, I was like dozing off, so I had to pull over on the side of the road and just take a nap for about 30 minutes. And that's never happened to me before. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older. I don't know if it's long COVID. Um, but I asked, uh, well, I just told my ex-wife about it, and she said, "Yeah, that could be it." I still really have not gotten my energy level back, to be quite honest with you. I don't know if this, just I say, I don't know if it's just that I'm getting old, but I mean, I never had these problems with being tired until I had COVID. I know that.
yeah, me neither. Other than just like I said, typical, 50 something middle age,
Yeah,
but it's pretty good. It's been like it's noticeable. It's significant, and sometimes it feels like it's getting better, but I don't think it is. I'm just, I go to work. I have to go back to the office a few days a week now, and like I go to my car and take a nap like 2, 3 times a day. Like
I
mm,
did the
hard for me
same
to get
thing.
through the day,
Yeah,
But
yeah. So I feel your pain, brother. I feel it.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Like I don't know how long. I don't know how. I'm not sure when long COVID when that timeline begins. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's maybe in a couple of weeks if I'm still feeling it. I went back. I went back to boot camp after taking a couple weeks off because of COVID. And the first day I was there, I couldn't even do half. Shit that I could easily do. I went
Yep.
this morning and I did better. I probably did maybe 70, 80%. It was kicking my ass, but
Yeah.
this thing is like I'll get some energy, but then it's just like gone. It's just sucks out, man. Like, anyways, Patrick, how you doing, man? I'm sorry I didn't go off.
Yeah, man.
no,
Yeah.
I'm just worried about you. I'm worried. This is exactly like stuff I fear, and it's sad. And I'm sorry. I know this is like this is common. There's millions of people that are. The problem too is like if you go talk to your doctor, they probably wouldn't know what to say or what to do, and doctors like do this thing because it's not always the case, but I've had this experience, and a lot of people have the experience of going to a doctor, and instead of just saying, I don't know what to do, we don't have therapies for this, or we don't, like we don't even know how to identify or diagnose the problem. What they'll do instead is say, like, oh, it's your, like, there's something going on, psychosomatic, or it's something like they'll just bullshit you because of
Yeah.
the sort of authority and the dynamic between patient and doctor is this like thing. So, yeah, there's a lot of people that are like experiencing long COVID, and it's a constellation of things. It's not one thing. Fatigue is one of the most common, and like cognitive issues, fog, short term memory loss. Like, there's a lot of things that are cognitive. But fatigue is really, really common. And I think for you and for anyone that has COVID, like, give yourself longer to rest than you think you need, and really don't push yourself physically for quite a while. It can actually make it worse for you in the long term.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I'm just sorry that that happened and that you both got COVID. Like, I'm the only one in this group of three that hasn't gotten it. And that's because I'm a fucking paranoid and reclusive person now, Like, I've
Well,
really had to shrink my circle a
you were
lot.
smart. You've been interviewing people with it. I remember, I went to an event a few months ago and you were like, what are you doing? It was in New York City, which is where I fucking got it, not
Yeah,
surprisingly.
yeah.
And you were like, what are we doing without a mask on? And like, even though I know this shit, I was just not thinking. I mean, I was masking up recently when I got it, but when I got it at a concert a few weeks ago, and it was, hundreds of people. It was indoors, New York fucking city. I'm drinking beer,
Yeah.
the mask is going on and off. It's like, it's
Yeah.
just ridiculous. I just, I should have just kept, I shouldn't have drank, that's a whole other thing too. I've decided that, to end my 40-year relationship with alcohol.
Mm.
I'm going
Man, you
sober.
too?
Me
Man,
too, man. Are you too?
I, my, I took my last one on the first because I said this year I would just want to focus on my health, mental health, physical health, spiritual health, everything. So I'm like, man, I don't want any intoxicants in my body. I want to go to the doctor, get my blood work done on the 30th. I want them to give me top notch, tell me everything that's wrong with me. Just self-care. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all. That's all I'm about. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
yeah.
You,
I feel like,
I just do the same thing. Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, there's, I have, I mean, family history of alcoholism. I should have quit, 20, 30 years ago. But,
Yeah.
the one thing that really gave, there's two things that are a wake up call for me. One of them was COVID. Like I don't know what this is going to do to my body. I'm not, I'm not taking chances getting again. I ain't going to get it again. I mean, I'm fucking double masking. I bought an air filter for my office.
I hear you, bro.
I,
Yeah.
and now that I'm not drinking, if I go out, I'm only going out places where there's few. I ain't going to New York City again for a very long time. So I'm being really careful, but I'm like, that's, I used to like to smoke weed. I'm stopping that because I need to let my lungs recover. So like, I really gotta stop for a while. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know where this is going. And, um, but yeah, I took my last drink New Year's Eve, and
Yep. That's same as me.
yeah,
Same as me.
and I'm just one day at a time right now. It's you know, I'm open to all paths. I don't know. A lot of people asking about AA. I'm like, I'm doing pretty good. I went to an event on Saturday night with my first test. Because
Uh-huh.
it's easy when you're at home, and I don't drink during the week when I'm working and all that. But I went to an event where I always drink, and I always drink like 3 or 4 drinks. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is gonna. And I gave myself permission. Like, if it gets awkward, just leave, man.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
fucking leave, man. Don't just leave. Just don't care if like social, whatever. But like, it
Yep.
was actually all right. It wasn't weird. It didn't feel awkward. It was. But that's just one night. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to be going to concerts for a while, but I haven't been. I don't think I've ever been to a concert sober. I mean,
Yeah.
like I'm already. There's some things I'm already getting kind of worried about. Like, so the biggest thing too is social events with family and work, because you need alcohol just to get through the bullshit. You know what I mean? Just to talk. You know what I'm talking about? People, you're just like, like that's
Yeah.
the first thing, like, oh man, I gotta listen to fucking Uncle Frank go on about this and that. It's like,
Yeah.
you know,
You
those are the
need
ones
that,
that
you need that
crazy.
intoxicant, yeah, to
But
need to,
yeah, I'm
yeah,
cleaning out. I'm alcohol free now. One day at a time.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. That's what it
um,
is. That's what it is, bro. I mean, me, I just like I said, I mean, I'm not going certain places also. Like I said, for a few months, I don't want to go to a bar. I just want to get my body right. I just
right,
don't feel
right,
like I'm in good shape anymore at all. I really don't like the shape I'm in now. I saw a picture of myself and I'm like, man, FP, you have to get back to it. You got
mm,
to get back
yeah,
to it. So
yeah.
I really just want to focus on myself this year. So
I feel you. I feel you. Yeah, yeah. I'm already feeling, talking about the brain fatigue from COVID, the
mhm.
brain fog, I guess. I'm not, I might be getting some of that. I can't tell if it's just I'm tired, and the fatigue is causing the fog, or if it's in addition to the fog. I just don't know where it's all going, and I'm really worried. I read shit constantly on it, and there's just a lot of unknowables out there. And like I said, the longer I got tested positive on the 22nd, so it's been 3 weeks, and like, yeah, some of the symptoms got better. I'm not coughing as much. I was coughing for a while, but
Yeah,
that's gotten better. Pretty much almost all gone. Just a little here and there, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
fatigue, man. It's like, it's no fucking joke. No fucking joke.
No.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I'm.
Patrick, I was gonna,
Oh,
I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean like if you got something to say, but like, because I know you said something Messenger. Do you still have friends? Do you still have connections down in Brazil?
I have well, there's one that I don't really talk to anymore. But
That's who yeah.
yeah, but I have another friend, someone I've had on numerous times. He's a journalist down there named Brian Muir, and he writes a lot of stuff that's directed toward English speaking audiences. But he lives in São Paulo, so I'm actually working on getting. I think we might do an interview on Wednesday about what's going on in down in Brazil, because just so everybody knows, like, what's today? Today's the 9th. Yesterday there was like a January 6th style kind of power grab thing that happened in Brazil, where there's some subtle and distinct differences. Like, Lula da Silva definitely won, just like Biden did, but he's been inaugurated. He got inaugurated. They get their presidential elections happen late in the year, like ours, but they get inaugurated on like the 1st of January or something like that. So he's kind of a center left president. He's been president before, and there's a long story to that. But yeah, he's president now. Bolsonaro has the same kind of following like Trump sort of has, like that MAGA cult sort of following. And Bolsonaro's in fucking Florida right now. I don't know if you're all aware. He's chilling in Florida. People are videoing on like Twitter. He's like in a supermarket in Florida, just like walking around like a normal person. You know, this is like,
he's like hanging with some MMA fighter, right?
Yeah, he's like staying at his house or something. It's just like, it's just weird. It's just a weird thing. While he's in Florida, all of his followers like stormed in Brasilia, the capital. They stormed the Capitol building. They apparently went after some other government buildings as well. But it's the same kind of playbook that they're doing, and it's been known for a while that there's like some strong collaborations between like Bolsonaro and his sons and like Steve Bannon and like the Trump people. Yeah. So it's not surprising. We kind of knew this stuff was happening, but yeah, it's a similar type thing. So I'm going to try to, I haven't been doing interviews in a while because I've had my own personal shit going on, and I've been taking like a month or so from just doing work, and it's winter and my energy rate is lower and slower.
I'm looking at life now just to try really to live in the immediate. Don't let myself get bombarded with too much stuff anymore. You know,
yeah.
I remember there was one time where I used to stay up to like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning writing about all this shit that's going on. And I still want to do it, but I don't feel as intense about it anymore. You know, I'm more relaxed, about how I view the world, more just don't let this place kill me.
Yeah,
before
survive.
Time, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah. Don't let this place. It's not worth it.
Survive another week. Just keep on going.
I mean, that's it. Enjoy my time here. Enjoy my time with y'all, and that might be what is too saccharine, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like man, but I mean that's just how I feel now. I mean, like look what went down in Brazil, right? I mean, nobody was shocked. And I can see a whole lot of right-wing spots where that's going to continue, right? Because now it's in everybody's mind, If they feel, I mean, it's the new norm. If you lose, then it was stolen from you. If if you win, then everything was right, and that's just the new norm. And you've seen it. You've seen Bolsonaro do the same thing, even though it didn't come out till now, where they stormed the Capitol. But he's been saying the same thing that Trump said, right? If I win, I win. If I lose, cheat. And you've heard like other politicians say that. I mean, the last campaign, what's the lady in Arizona?
Jerry Lake.
Lake. Yeah. What she do? She went to court, threw her bullshit out. I think she's gonna have enough to pay Hobbs's lawyer fees or something like that, or they get like $50,000. But I think she's gonna try and appeal that. But anyhow, I mean, she ran the gamut. Everything it is that Trump did, that's what she did. I mean, it's just, it's a strange situation. I just don't see it getting any better because you have so many crackpots and it's just getting worse. I mean, just look at our Congress. I
Yeah,
mean,
look at
what,
look at the
what
house. I
you
mean,
do
like
with
it's
the,
a
I
fucking
mean,
shit show.
it's a shit show, it's a literal shit show. So
Yeah.
I don't even know what to tell folks. I mean, if you're talking about kids, I mean, just think about how expensive an education is now. You know, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know what I would have done if I had to go to college today, and I had to pay. And then, in California, you used to be able to just go for free, you know,
Yeah.
not anymore, you know. I
Yeah,
remember,
just to
I
get into
remember in
New
the
York.
early 1900s when they used to have people that would just like work at night and go to Harvard. You know what I mean? Or do like some busboy
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, everything was just so cheap. Now, can you imagine trying to go into Harvard without getting some loans or whatever? Not just off a scholarship. You know, you'd be dead in the water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all like nepotism, right? Because it's
Yeah,
connections. It's like
right. Yeah,
there's no like the idea of the American like pull yourself up by your bootstraps meritocracy thing is just it's always been bullshit, but it's especially bullshit. Everybody knows it too. It's like you can't get into Hollywood that way. You can't get into Harvard that way. You can't. There's like elite spaces that are so almost it's impossible for people like us. Like if we wanted to get in there, it would be impossible. Like
yeah.
almost impossible. So yeah, it's stacked against us, and we feel like we're all just watching a spectacle, like with the Republicans in the House. Like you mentioned that bill, right? I mean, I don't know if you have something to say about it, but it's just like they haven't had to do that kind of vote, re-voting over and over and over again for a speaker just to get Congress in
Oh yeah.
session and get everyone sworn in. That had happened since before the Civil War. Like this
Yeah,
Yeah,
is
like
yeah,
over
1960.
100 and something years ago. Yeah.
yeah.
What were you saying?
I
Sorry,
mean, how
Bill.
many times they had to vote? They had to vote 15, wasn't it?
15
15
times.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
15 times.
That's
Yeah.
You know,
that's
and
crazy.
think and he gave up, like you're being a speaker, like, you have two things you really have to do. Like you have to keep your party in line and you have to negotiate, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
That's part of that. So like,
Yep.
he negotiated with his party, he gave up everything and got nothing. It's like that's not negotiation, that's fucking capitulation. It's like,
Yeah.
that just shows
That was
what a
it.
fucking shitty. And then, he had to like bend all these rules, so like one of the new rules is like one person can challenge him, one person can call a vote. So what do you think is going
Oh
to
yeah,
happen when
yeah,
the debt
yeah,
ceiling comes
yeah,
up, right?
yeah.
Gates
That's
or
crazy.
Boebert or Green, they're gonna fucking, oh yeah, we're gonna, they're gonna, take him out. So it's just an unbelievable shit show. I mean, it's like it's just fucking, I mean, and their whole agenda is just, and one investigation after another. It's gonna do absolutely nothing for no one. I mean,
Hunter Biden. Yeah.
it's usually the Democrats will throw you a bone every now and then. You know what I mean? Like they got fucking nothing. I mean, they're shit too, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're just less
I
terrible.
got
That's
you.
all. It is.
Yeah, that's about it. But did you hear his speech when he got the gavel?
Mm.
Um
Oh,
uh well, he very subtly said, like, you won't have to break into the Capitol building anymore. And he kind of embraced the people from January 6th, like right in the middle of his speech. And I said, man, you want to talk about capitulation? Those people gonna kill him. Remember when he got on the phone with Trump? He's like, man, you need to send the National Guard. He's like, well, it seems like they care more about what's going on than you do, Kevin. And then they kind of, I think he like cursed each other out or something like that. But the fact of the matter is that these people were going to kill him. And he was basically just like, you know what? Let's let bygones be bygones.
yeah, he thanked
We're
Trump.
gonna have
He
a
thanked Trump.
different
He's like, yeah,
capitalism.
thank you, Trump, for it's like,
Yeah.
the power he has in that party, man. He keeps losing elections for them. It's like he's getting more unpopular. It's good comes out. I mean, he's still, has so much hold. It's like it's just fucking, I don't know. It's like it's being 53 and like shit's always been fucked up, man. But like it's just a whole of the world, man. It's like the world like 30 years
Yeah.
ago now. It's like just the standard norms and political
Yeah.
process is like, I couldn't see how the shit was gonna happen, but like it's a whole of the world, whole of the world.
Yeah. I watched a PBS documentary about Trump, and he did the same thing in 2012 when Romney lost. He said in his Twitter feed, "Oh man, it was stolen. Da 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 da. It's just he wasn't like on the big stage, but he had already done that before. I didn't know that. So he was primed for if he'd lost in 2016, it'd have been the same thing. But then in 2020, I think with all the different characters in Congress, it was more susceptible to happen. I mean, because you see how like no way that let me get an old school speaker. Who's my man that was speaker? Oh man, in
Boehner
the 80s. Tip,
or
Tip,
Tip
Tip,
O'Neill?
Tip O'Neill, thank you. Somebody like Tip O'Neill, he wouldn't be doing no shit like that, planning no insurrection with people on the backside. You know, it was like business as usual. I'm not saying that's good, but I'm just saying like this would have never happened until now. It was like just a prime time for this explosion, you know. And I think they're gonna do it again. I think
Oh
that they're
yeah,
gonna do it again. I think it's gonna
absolutely.
definitely happen again. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, I
absolutely.
was I was gonna say that I had an interview released with Shane Burley.
That was really good, by the way. I wanted to give a
Oh,
shout out.
oh,
Sorry.
thank you. Yeah, I wanted to say though one part about it because like we're kind of in this post-Trump era, and we call it post-Trump because I mean Trump's still very much there, but he's not president, and there's kind of this weird space we're in where he doesn't have the energy, the vitality, or even the kind of support he had back in during his presidency or even leading up to it. But there's kind of this post-Trump thing happening where yeah, you're talking about these figures like Gates, Boebert, Green, I don't know, McCarthy, like all these long list of representatives and senators and people in government who have embodied the Trumpian kind of spirit, if you want to call it that. And so they've kind of like there's like a Trump shaped hole and they're trying to fill it. And so you would never would have seen the Republican Party do any of the shit that they've been doing over the past 6 years or the past just couple years without the influence of Trump and like the way he's kind of shaped the political character of the Republican Party to such a degree. So
Oh,
yeah,
he
you have
completely changed the party. Yeah, I mean, he changed the
yeah,
party as much as Reagan did. You know, I mean,
yeah,
there's 60 members of Congress are election deniers. 60. You know, like that's a lot, and that's just the
yeah.
ones that we know are election deniers. There's probably more that were quiet. You know, there's some in Congress that were actively involved in the insurrection. Um,
Oh, Forrest dropped
on
out.
January 6th. So, what happened to Forrest?
He dropped out.
Yeah.
I think he'll try to come back in. He probably just
Yeah,
lost connection.
I know he's got his problems, his connections.
Yeah,
On there, I'm sure he'll be back in.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just I know we had said this before. It's like Trump. I wasn't sure. I was pretty sure he's going to win in 2020. If it wasn't for COVID, he would have. But I was like, with Trump might be gone, but Trumpism's here to stay, and that seems to be, like you were saying, he kind of left a void, and they're just filling that void. They're
Mm-hmm.
not. I was, and like I said, McCarthy thanking him. It's like, it was like it's so bizarre. I
Well,
like how he can seem to somehow, lose election after election, but they still lick his boots.
You
Um,
know, I would love if Forrest was here, but just like this whole bitching about like, oh, people like want to have their pronouns and like the masculine is like we have all these like effeminate men and all this stuff. And when you see someone like Ted Cruz, who was so publicly insulted and humiliated by Trump, like Trump is just the biggest fucking asshole and a bully. Just he'll sit there and just he'll make fun of someone's wife on stage, like just no
he
shame.
called his wife ugly. Could you imagine?
Yeah, like how fuck you, and then by I don't know how many months pass, and the election happens, then like Ted Cruz is kissing his ring. So it's like so much for your like masculinity, like protecting your family and your honor. Like fuck you, like so
right,
it's
right.
just this environment that I feel like politically and almost like just like bringing up the fact that you and Forrest just got COVID. I mean, like there's just so many layers of how bad it feels right now. Like, why look to politics for anything regarding any sort of path forward or solution? It just seems like it's degenerating right before our eyes to just a bunch. It's like a pit of snakes. Like, what are we looking at here? Is
Right.
this
I
even
mean,
worth
the
paying attention
Democrats
to?
are supposed to be the party that was, they were taking it, this is like a late 2020, when COVID, 2020, was to be the party, that was going to, control the pandemic. And all they did was like, yeah, everyone get your vaccine, get your boosters. All the hand wringing over, not that it wasn't, legit, but all the hand wringing over like, they're taking away our rights and Big Brother. I'm like, it's all fucking gone. It's all fucking gone. There's no more vaccine requirements,
Yeah.
There's no more vaccine passports. I haven't been asked about a vaccine in months, Nobody's wearing masks. They're not telling you to wear masks.
Yeah.
No filtration systems, my office, when they tried it with September 21, they're trying to get us to come back. And one of the things they said, they're like, we're putting in a HEPA filter, in the office, because it was September. So coming up. So they're like, those open, until it gets cold. And then we're going to have this, it'll take a few months, but that fucking thing never showed up. They never fucking put it. There's no filter. It's winter now. The windows are all closed. No one's wearing a mask. I'm one of 3 people in the office who wears them. In an office of about, and it's an open air office, like not big, and this new variant, which I'm sure y'all have heard about, what they're calling the Kraken, exploding in the Northeast, up in it, and if everybody's wearing them. So if you're the lone masker, going to do anything, it's evading the vaccines, evading the boosters. No more talk about, improving the vaccine, distributing better masks. That mask you have, Patrick, that's the shit I got to look into, like a serious. I'm not fucking around anymore. I'm not, I feel embarrassed. Take it as seriously. I just thought that, doing enough. I wasn't doing enough, and I knew I wasn't doing enough, but anyways, lesson learned moving forward, I'm taking it absolutely serious, because this is it, man. We gotta look out for each other. There's fucking, and that there, DeSantis gets it, all it's going, he's what he said, like the only people wearing masks now are like ugly people who don't want, like, no, man, when do Republicans take over? It's like it just seems so fucking hopeless, hopeless. I mean, I think that there's people, I think, beyond politics, I think people are still being vigilant, doing what they can do, it's not enough, just being one of the mask, it's not, everybody's got to be wearing a mask,
Yeah.
but fuck, here we are. Here we are.
Yeah. Well, I think that going forward, they're eventually going to have to do something, because people are just so oblivious, really, because we don't live in a hospital, right? I can count how many times I've actually been in a hospital, right? So it's like out of sight, out of mind. In fact, people don't even think about hospitals because, think about death and all that other stuff. But the fact of the matter is that eventually, I think they won't have any choice but to revisit this. I mean, I don't think they'll have any choice. I mean, New York's getting hit pretty hard, if I'm not mistaken, right? And I know Cali was. I think that they also, in Los Angeles, they were going to institute like a indoor mask policy again. I don't think that they did it, but they were talking about it. So we're just like right on the verge of having enough people get into the hospitals where they'll get overwhelmed and then they'll have no choice. But I think if it goes back to it, I think there's going to be some violence. I mean, like some real violence. Right?
Yeah. I think one thing that's going to change shit is that there's just a big teachers union went on strike, and the hospitals are already filling up, because not just COVID, it's MRV, I'm not sure. The other, lung disease, lung virus,
RSV.
all that shit. So RSV, that's it. Thank you. So I think, now with rising rates and the teachers, I think they're going to start doing it. I just saw that. I think it's Akron or somewhere in Ohio. The municipal union there is doing mask requirements. Man, I wish they'd fucking bring back mask requirements for municipal employees in New York. I'm a municipal employee.
Definitely. Yeah.
Like I said, and sitting there in front of my, I put a little air filter in front. God, I'm just I try to like stay away from everybody. Uh, But it's I don't know. The more I read about this new variant, man, it's just that fucking it's really, really concerning me. I don't know if that's what I got, but I just
Yeah.
don't want it. I ain't gonna get it,
It
man.
just, yeah, there's a lot, as epidemiologists have described it, like viruses have a certain amount of evolutionary space to evolve in, and there's like all these variables and factors as to what allows a virus to continue and persist into different, lineages, like subvariants and things like this. So like, yeah, the most recent and dominant variant is what they call recombinant. Is that the right word? I feel like that's similar to the word I'm trying to think of, but basically it's like two completely different strains have like merged, and a lot of times within certain hosts that happens. You can infect it with like two viruses or two strains of the same virus that are able to merge together, and then they have attributes of both lines. And so that's what's happening, because literally you have billions of people getting infected with a highly contagious virus, and it's able to do this. It's able to mix and match, and that's how we get a huge soup of different variants of COVID. And, I mean, like, I would be interested, and I don't know anything because I'm not a scientist and I don't study viruses on that level, but I would be curious to know, like, how completely different is the most recent variants of COVID from the original virus that came out of Wuhan, China, at the end of 2019. I'm sure it's like almost a completely different fucking virus.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is this whole like bullshit narrative around like natural immunity and like you get infected and you're going to be fine. You'll build immunity. Like, people don't understand how immunity really works, and that's not what's happening. And the reason why people are getting COVID over and over and over again is because they might have gotten Delta and then they're getting Omicron, and now they're getting some subvariant or sub lineages or subvariants of different types of different viruses that come from Omicron. And so people are just getting reinfected over and over and
Yeah.
over again.
I
And
met somebody who got infected 4 times.
it's
4 fucking times.
bananas. It's
It's
bananas.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is what makes me so angry too. Like, the Biden administration, there's so many things to be angry about, but like, I appreciate when conservatives and Republicans and Trump people are as batshit crazy as they are, because you know what they're doing. Democrats will tell you one thing and do the opposite. They
Yeah, that's
promise
true.
something to get
That's true.
elected and they don't do it. They say,
Yeah.
we're going to follow the science and we're going to end the pandemic. All that they've done is created it's a sociological production. It's like, this is not real. This isn't epidemiologically real. The virus is still raging and it's still a pandemic, and yet Anthony Fauci can say the pandemic is basically over, or Biden can say it's basically over,
Yeah.
or that the virus, or that the vaccines are enough to stop it, right?
Right.
And that's just not true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You
Back to
need,
normal Biden. That's what
yeah,
he ran
Yeah.
on. That's what he's now. He's just like,
yeah,
people underestimate. People talk about like government control and take our. That's obviously a thing. It's all a problem. But like, it all comes down to capital, man.
yeah.
People.
Yeah.
They wanted stores open up. People wanted to go and bathe. People want to go back to movies. People want to go back to normal. They want people to spend again. That's what it is. They're not going to know, and
Right.
that's what they care about. That's what they're capitulating to. They're not looking at science. They're not. They're just get your vaccines and that's it. Nothing else. No. I heard that the last COVID funds are going away, and that's it. There's no more money for COVID relief. So if there's more, there's not going to be any funding. If we
Well,
have to go into another situation, I mean, I don't know about how effective lockdowns would be now. Anyways, I think that it's more about masking and air quality and whatnot. But
I think what's the most infuriating thing, it's not just like the Biden administration, but like, people will do everything they can to blame anything else except for the most obvious thing. So we're having, this past winter, we've had so many kids, like pediatric hospitals are filling up. Hospitals for adults are filling up. People are getting really bad strains of flu. There's RSV, like you mentioned, and COVID. So there's just like this horribly, like they call it the tridemic, right? And people are like, why is it that RSV, which has been around for a long time and kids have gotten RSV and have never had to go to the hospital before, are all of a sudden getting so sick from it that they're going to the hospital? I mean, it's not like it never happens. It's just that the rates are so much higher now.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have like just a whole bunch of like compounding health crises occurring at once. And so then people were like, no, you know what it was? We have immune debt. It's not a real thing, but we just made it up for this circumstance where you didn't get sick enough over the past couple of years because you were wearing masks and you were like socially distancing for COVID. Now your immune system is weak. And so you get things that you got before, like the cold or the flu or the RSV, and now you're getting super sick and you have to go to the hospital. And it's like, that's not a real thing.
Yeah, that's been proven to be
And
absolutely not true.
one of the things they're discovering is that because of the mass infection of COVID, people's immune systems are really impaired. Like there is actual impairment and serious issues that come from COVID infection. Like they've proven that. So people who have gotten COVID previously tend to have more frequent colds and serious infections from things. So what we're seeing is that we've let a virus run loose. It's mass infected at all age groups. And if you haven't died, you've been severely compromised in numerous ways in your body. You're getting common viruses. You're getting sicker than you ever thought you could from them. Hospitals are overrun. And people are like, you know what it was? It was because of those half-ass lockdowns we did 2 fucking years ago. It's like, no, like that wasn't the issue.
Yeah, we never had lockdowns here either. I mean, New York City for like a week, couple weeks, maybe a month, maybe in a little bit, but fucking, we didn't have lockdown. Not like they had in fucking China.
No.
Oh, hell no. Fuck no.
And no one fucking took it. Everybody fucking half-assed. How many people did you see, walking around with masks, like with their nose open? And like,
still see it, yeah.
Like they had a football player. The New York Jets quarterback, and his family went to the NFL draft, and they all had masks on, but they were just so petty. They were mesh masks. You saw it from the side, and then his mother. She did the same thing, I think, when she went to Disney World or something like that. I mean, I'd rather you just be straight up like, I'm not going to wear it. But to do something petty like that, and then also outwardly try and kill folks, that's sick and twisted. That's sick and twisted. I mean, all the stupid shit that they say, which makes no sense. Remember when they were talking about, like, man, kids need to go outside and get dirty, and they would have pictures of kids in like 1900? I'm like, did you go look at the mortality rate of kids in 1900? Did you ever see that?
Like,
you got your fucking mind. Shit, hell. Why do you think we
in a strange twist of events, and I'm sure you guys have watched this too, we're just talking about all the things that COVID can do, right? Heart attacks, right? Strokes, that. Then the fucking anti-vaxxers are like, it's the vaccine that's causing that.
The vaccine. It's
I'm
crazy.
like, right. They're like, why are these people suddenly dying? I'm like, it's fucking COVID. It's fucking giving people, heart conditions and shit. And it's like, no, it's just fucking surreal. It's like, between, like you said, like back to normal Biden, this come up and then, it's not actually, it's fucking, it's just like massive gaslighting, it's just, I just feel like, I saw, my son loves stand-up comedy, so I took him to see Jim Gaffigan. It was good, and he's not really my kind of comedy, but he's anyways, my son really loved it, but he had this joke and it was kind of funny, like the way it landed, but he was just like, he goes, in 2020, and it's like, 3,400 people died this week. He goes, now it's just like 340,000 people died this week. Yeah, whatever. It's like the rate's like, you know what I mean? Like the death rate is like, it's going up in a lot of places, and like, it's just not. Yeah,
they just desensitized to it now. It's just like, it's just a number. It's like I was looking at some of the NFL contracts and some of the ones for baseball. It doesn't mean anything anymore. 250 mil, 300 mil. I mean, it's just, okay. It means nothing. So as people see all these contracts, they make all this money, what they think is money, it's still never gonna really relate to the goods and services that is going, because it's all fiat currency, right? At the end of the day, so you can make it up to be whatever in the fuck it is that you want us to make it up to be, right? So it's like, okay, 500 mil, let's do it. A billion, I mean, what are they talking about now? Who's going to be the first trillionaire? That's crazy. It means nothing anymore.
Elon Musk lost what, $200 billion?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I mean,
nobody's
it's
ever
crazy.
lost that much money. And I was like, it's just nothing. It's just,
You know
It's
what?
like, okay, well,
The funniest thing, it was like not even a year ago, he was seen as, I think he was technically the richest man in the world. And now he's the guy that's lost the record amount of money possible. Like,
Yeah.
so how is money real if one weirdo with a god complex can just like do that? Like, that doesn't make sense. And yet it has enormous consequence for people somehow. I mean, for some obvious reasons, but like still, it feels so surreal and spectacular, and it's hard to like make sense of it and like feel like the tangibility of it. Like when you say 3,000 people die a month or 4,000 a month or whatever from COVID, it's like that doesn't feel tangible, like unless of course it happens to you. And so that's a big thing, is we're dealing with so much abstraction, and then when it finally like is physical, when it starts to affect you, and I'm also, I want to be clear, like I'm speaking as a white dude in America, so there's gonna be shit that's just not gonna touch me in the same way it's gonna touch other people that are not white, right? Like let's just be clear about that. And being a male too, like I just want to be clear.
Indeed.
But speaking from this position, like I can say like the reason why white people are getting so fucking riled up right now is because for the first time in a generation or two, they're like, oh, there's stakes to this. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know that, and we didn't feel that for a long time, and now it's coming up. And so these reactionary politics are emerging out of that. And they're not good politics, But anyway, the abstraction of all of this is just so like, it doesn't feel like it touches you until your grandma dies of COVID, or you get COVID and you feel long COVID. You know what I mean? Like it numbers don't really mean anything until you're one of those numbers. You know?
No, I think like the kid that just had the heart attack, right? The football player, right?
Mm-hmm.
People sent like millions of dollars into his charity, right?
Mm.
And it's only little instances like that we see the humanity in this country. But that's what it takes. It takes a 24-year-old man having a heart attack like that to at least establish, I guess, some type of kindness or niceness, right?
Yeah.
It always takes the worst situation in order for Americans to finally feel something, right? That's why they want to go back to 1950s times, though, right?
Yeah. We
had an abundance of resources. White middle-class America was good. It really was just like that up until the 60s. Then you saw where we had culture wars, and we're there again. But we still had a burgeoning economy. We still had a lot of shit we could build, computers, cell phones. But now everything is getting to the point where it's getting harder to not only get these things, but to keep them. You might have them for a second, but then you lose them like Elon Musk, right? Only we feel a lot more if we get laid off. I know I did when I got laid off when COVID hit, right? So that affected me, affected my bottom line, affected my dogs, everything. So everybody wants to go back to a time when, I've even heard black people say that, man, I want to go back to the 1950s, right? But no, because there wasn't no gay folks, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody was straight, everybody heterosexual, you had to worry with no transgender, a man was a man, a woman was a woman, everybody lived in the same house. When my mama, when she was always there, cooking my meal, yada, yada, yada. I've heard it, So even in that strange atmosphere of even the South, where you can lose your life at any time, the black community still sees that as a time when we had togetherness, or everybody was in the house, or whatever it may be, right? Even through all that impoverishment. And that's how it is now. People just want to go back to a time where they felt safe and secure,
Yeah, I think that's, even when you didn't have freedoms, seemingly, or privileges that you may have now, things felt maybe more like there was an order to things that made sense, like You understood why things were the way they were on a certain
Right.
level. There was
Exactly.
stories that
Exactly.
felt coherent and made sense. Now there's like,
Yeah.
it's not that way. So I
Yeah.
get that. Yeah.
I don't begin to understand everything, but postmodern. But part of the what post kind of the essentially what postmodernism is many perspectives, right? So then the modern era, which I guess think began around the early 19th century, to now was defined by perspective, and it was a European perspective, it was a white perspective, and it was a male perspective, right? The Anglo perspective, right? And that's what dominated, right? So like, as long as you fell into that, you were all right, right? And if you didn't fall in that, well, you pretend to fall in that, you're all right. But then beginning, the postmodern period, began around the late 60s, I think the 70s, and that way to perspectives. What about women? What about black people? What about Asian? You know what I mean? So all these perspectives popping up, and so that was kind of part of the cultural revolution. I think that that's is really manifesting now. I think that people who grew up in the older generation where they said, they want to go back to it. They want to go back to there's one perspective. They said when a man was a man, because you get that. Now there's just like they don't want to deal with all the different, I don't want to have to think about how things affect other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's kind
Well,
of
I mean, I'll tell anybody. I think that America. Well, I don't think America was made basically for just straight white men,
Yeah.
right? Right. I mean, that's pretty much it. And they've added on all these people, and it's too much. And they just want to get back to a time when it was a straight white male world. That's what a lot of the whole January 6th rioting. But we want our rights back. We want to be at the head of the table now, like we were back in the day. And we decide when you eat, when you shit, when you do everything. So but it's impossible. I mean, it's literally impossible. So you can't go back into the past.
right.
And people are just trying to go live in the past again.
Right. Allowed that to happen no longer exists. You can't have. I look at the last three generations of my family. My grandparents, they didn't go to college. My grandfather went to World War II, came back. Got the GI Bill and all that. He was able. My grandmother never worked, and one income, no college education. He was able to get a house, car. He had money. My dad didn't go to college. He had money for the college like that. Next generation, my parents' generation, they didn't go to college either, but working class, but they were able to put together a house. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money. Like now, me and my wife, college educated, working a lot of stuff. We're just keeping our heads above water. Just keeping our heads above water. Like, I don't know. I mean, I look at my kids, I'm like, there's just, how they gonna afford to do fucking anything? Like, how do you buy a house? Like the cheapest house in my neighborhood now is like, I think I might be the cheapest house in this neighborhood. And the house is worth $550,000. There's no fucking way I could afford this house now. I could just barely afford it when we bought it back in 2012. I just like, it just seems libertarians always talk at, that fucking don't exist. Like, if it did, then why? I don't know, people, shit, how are people able to get fucking anything, and that's just housing, food costs and all that. Say more complicated with climate change, um, you know, chain disruptions and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I know that was weighing on you, Patrick. You're talking about, how to, move forward your life. Or anything.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about just made me think about this. Like, yeah, it as someone who rents a house or an apartment, like I don't know how we're ever be able to own anything, and I more and more it just sort of feels like we're peasants in a feudal system. Like we don't own shit. We don't own the land. We're working it for the Lord, and we don't just so we can live on it. Like that's what it feels like. We're just working. This is capitalism. I know, but like it feels like we're working for the lords, and the lords are demanding that we continue to work the land, and we barely, but we don't even have, this is what's fucked too. Peasants had more power than we do. They had more access to the commons, the lands, than we do. Like, there wasn't, the enclosures hadn't happened yet. So basically, people had to, grow the crops and build, do the things they had to do as peasants, but they had a lot of days off because they had a lot of saints' days, and they had access to forests and rivers and things, and they could just make a living and subsist. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't great. There was a lot of fucked up shit going
Oh
on
yeah.
nonetheless. But like, there was some sense of autonomy that they had, and we don't even have that now.
There's an
So,
obligation from like, there's a word for it in French, like noblesse. I forget what it is, but
mm,
it's the obligation that the nobles and the lords had to the peasants. And again, like it's not that like it was anything close to egalitarian, but there was an obligation there. I heard an interesting thing about the story of the Christmas Carol, right? About Scrooge.
mm,
And what was interesting about it is that Scrooge kind of represented the new capitalist class that was in its ascendancy at that time.
yeah,
And the origin of caroling was that uh, before people went around and sang happy songs, people would get drunk and they'd go to the noble's house and they would give them something, and nobles would have to like give them food and all that and give them.
yeah,
So when the by the time the Scrooge capitalist class comes around, they no longer felt obligated to give
yeah,
anything back. You know what I mean? And there's that opening. I don't know if you're familiar, if you've ever read the book, the opening scene where, and that it was meant to paint the picture of what was going on. Where the carolers go to the door, and he just he slams the door in their face. He has no obligation to
yeah,
them. It was a nothing because he could separate himself from that. He no longer had to have any obligation to that.
yeah,
It's kind of like a neo-feudal thing, but like worse in that in that way.
yeah,
Uh things were obviously at that time. And,
yeah,
but yeah, there's the capitalist class have no obligation to look out for anyone or anything. Uh,
yeah. Except for
uh,
themselves, right? Like,
except for
yeah,
themselves.
yeah,
Even if you look at interest, right? In all societies, they will always like cancel the interest. You know what I mean? They would just like, oh, I apologize, cancel the debt,
Yeah,
right?
debt
And then they would
jubilee.
kind of like just start
jubilees.
over again.
Yeah,
But look at how we lead our lives. Look at the interest rate on our houses. Everything is trying to squeeze every goddamn penny out of our hands. Everything. So you have nothing left in your pockets, right? Even if I get into a fight with a man or a woman, I'm saying MMA or something like that. I don't hit women. But I'm saying, like, if I get into an altercation of any
yeah,
kind, I still have a chance. I got no shot here. I got to pay this house to keep a roof over my head. I got to have a car for transportation just to get to the job, and it's like you're just handcuffed, you know. And I went through a time in my life where I was like, man, I just hate it. But now I'm just like, I made my peace with it, you know. I hate to say that, but I just made my peace with it. Now, do I know that in 5 years, if I'm going to be homeless? I couldn't tell you, man. I
Yeah.
really, literally cannot sit up here and tell you that. Oh man, I'm assured that I will, you know, be housed with a car, with whatever little savings I got. It can all be wiped out,
Oh yeah.
just like
I see homeless people in New York. I'm like, I'm 3 bad decisions and 2 crazy situations away from being just like them.
mm-hmm.
There
that's
you
it.
go, for grace of God go I, like there's just no assurances, it's like I said, and things just get expensive, more and more expensive. I haven't
Yeah,
had a raise in uh years, it's and the last rate I got was like 2% raise. It's different where I work because it's union and you bargain with the city and all that.
Yeah,
Place went up 8%. Fucking even that 2% rate got 2 years ago all got eaten up. You know,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
a loss of
it's
buying power.
I mean, it's insane. It really is insane how this world has changed so much. Even since I've been on, I'm not old, but I'm not a young man. But I look at, you know, I was looking at my house that I grew up in Los Angeles. I couldn't afford that damn house. I grew up in the inner city. That's crazy. And I'm an electrical engineer. I do pretty good. I cannot even afford the house. In fact, when my dad got the house, I don't think he had a job. I think he was just out of work. And then they just showed my parents like one house because we were like I think the second black family in our neighborhood over there in Linwood. And I saw white flight with my own eyes because we got the house when I was 2. And then that was 1974 when we got the house. I was 2. And then it was all white. Then by the early 80s, all the white kids were gone. It was just nothing but black folks. And then after that, it became mixed Latino or whatever. But I saw it with my own eyes. They just boom. And it's it's happening, but it's kind of subtle too. You're like, damn, where all the white people that used to be around here? Shit, damn, everybody gone. And then of course, what happens when all that cash leaves? Property values go down, right? Crime comes because people got to survive.
Schools go down
Snowball
because
effect.
schools are funded by property taxes.
So it's like, there you go, snowball effect, So, yeah, I'm what? So I will say this: I'm stunned that we made it this far. To be quite honest with you, I remember Richard. Oh man, he was big in peak oil. I haven't looked at Richard Heinberg.
Heinberg, yeah.
Richard Heinberg. I remember at one time he was being interviewed. He's like, man, in the 1980s, I thought we would have been done. Like all this oil and all this avarice that we have, I thought it'd be over. Even though even now he's shilling for renewables and shit.
A little bit, yeah.
Had show a while back, wasn't it? Did you interview Richard?
Yeah, I've had him on 2 times, but the last time was back in 2020 or 2020, maybe 2021. But yeah, he tries to be optimistic and be like kind of place an optimism in some of these technologies, but he also understands how imperfect they are. But there's a little bit of that, because because
I know. I mean, I'm not throwing them under the bus.
No, I know what you mean though, because I pushed back on that stuff too, because I'm like, this isn't a solution. This can't be a solution. And he's like, well, no, it can't be, and it isn't, and I think when I interviewed him last, it was right after the grid collapsed in Texas, and you've lived through that for us, but we brought it up several times on this podcast. But I interviewed him about that because I'm like, that, like, how does that work? Like, how does a whole grid collapse like that? Of course, the state of Texas is a bit unique in that it's isolated from other states, and that it's just like its own thing. But the severity of climate disruption and the storms and the just changes in the jet stream and all these things are creating more harsh conditions that grids can't really deal with. Like, I mean, you talked about this before. I know we've talked about this, but like when it gets super hot, when we have heat waves, people want to use AC. Some places don't have the infrastructure for AC. The Pacific Northwest, a lot of people don't have AC, and we have heat waves now every summer. Seems like. So what are we gonna do?
Up here don't have it.
Yeah,
they have winter.
A lot of places don't have it because they've never needed it, and the grid is not prepared for that much energy being used at the same time. So anyway, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm getting off tangents and stuff, but yeah, it's I don't know. I'm curious. Like, do you ever interrogate this part of yourself? Because there's a part of me, like you said this earlier with Forrest about COVID. It's like at some point they're gonna have to deal with it, or like at some point you think about like nobody can buy a house anymore. People are falling through the cracks all the time. The healthcare system, how long can they deal with all of these patients at once? All of these cascading and these crises are all intersecting with each other, and you think there's like always, and I admit there's a part of me that's like, not somebody, but the system, as it were, will step in to make it work. But what if they don't? Like, what if they just don't? Is that a part of you? Is that a part of any of your guys' like psychology? Is there like some little part of you that's telling you like, it's not optimism, it's just this sort of feeling like there's going to be something that's going to happen, that's going to be some tipping point where somebody will step in to change it, And I don't think that's a good or healthy part of my mind. I'm just saying it's there. Like it's little piece of me that exists. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's an understandable, absolutely. I mean, psychology, I get it, you know. I mean, there's just a lot of nobles out there. You know, I just, you know, I think it's a little bit, I'd rephrase that. I don't think it's that they won't. I think it's that they can't. You know, I don't think
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
have the power. I don't think the federal government has the power people say it does. You know, states have, you
Right.
know, the US states have a lot of power. Texas has a lot of power. You know, California, as you know, I think just moved up to the fourth largest economy. I mean, they could certainly do things outside of the federal government or in spite of the federal government if need to. So um, I just think that they're not as powerful as we sometimes think that they are, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think they have the resources that they
Mm-hmm.
do. And I just, like I said, I don't think it's that they won't. It's just that they can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, but
Makes
yeah,
sense.
well,
it's an unsettling way to to kind of move around. But
Mm-hmm.
well, you said California. You know, I have the fourth biggest economy now. But look at Los Angeles, right? There's a video series, Soft White Underbelly. I think that's the
Yeah.
name of it.
oh
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's really good. I watch those all the time. Yeah,
yeah. I can only take so much at a time, you know. So
yeah,
I
they're
can
pretty
watch
brutal.
one. Yeah, they are. Oof. Yeah, man, they're hard. They are hard. So, but you know, the guy that did it, he was on Joe Rogan. So, and I never seen him be interviewed before, but I watched that one. And then he had another interview where this guy actually went out to Skid Row, you know, where he gets all of his interviews from.
Mm.
And I was looking when I left Los Angeles about 15, 16 years ago, it was not even half that big.
Mm-hmm.
Now, man, it's probably 2 or 3 times bigger than it was when I was just out there so long ago. I mean, they just got all types of rampant crimes. Just I can't even fathom it. And then from what I hear, Frisco is worse. So what I'm saying is that with all the midst of that wealth, think about how many places the homeless situation is getting bad in Los Angeles. The only reason I know there's not too bad in San Diego because they don't let poor people into that city. That's the only reason they don't.
I didn't see many. I was in San Diego and LA this
Oh yeah,
summer.
you were there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Oh,
didn't see. I mean, I was in like Mission Bay area of San Diego,
right,
so like it
right.
wasn't. But the homeless problem in LA is as bad, maybe worse than. I mean, it's bad, man, and
Oh yeah,
it's
oh yeah.
different than like New York because in New York you've got neighborhoods. First of all, New York is like a lot denser and closer, so like 1 block, 2 blocks away is a whole different neighborhood sometimes. So you have places like the Upper East Side, these like wealthy areas where they keep them out. And it was strange in LA because like, you know, in Venice, you know, Venice is like extremely wealthy, completely gentrified. And you have like multi-million-dollar condos, and then you have these huge tent cities that are like
Yep,
half a block, you know,
yep.
and like in New York, like this is obviously terrible in this case, but they would push them out. You know, they push them down to the subways. Now they're trying to push him. Adams is trying to push him into the hospitals by force, which, you know, it's like, well, who's going to do that? The fucking police? Like they're, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole other thing, you know. But yeah, it was really strange to see just so much. I mean, I remember we went to an In-N-Out burger in Culver City, and like it was like a pretty upscale, like kind of neighborhood. And like we went outside to eat, and there was just crazy homeless people. Like one man was just screaming as pop was. The other man had his pants down, like walking around, and people are like on their phones, and they're just kind of like just walking
Yeah.
around. I mean, I people do that in New York too, just kind of normal, but it was just like it was just so strange. And I think it's LA, it's like everything's so bright and like because New York everything's so gloomy, and you know, so LA everything's just like bright and sunny and these beautiful people. And then it was just the contrast was kind of weird. So it's like uh you know, it was just yeah, the homeless thing it was just crazy, man, crazy.
I'm
Um
noticing it here in Houston. I'm noticing it here in Houston where I live downtown and I'm seeing more and more homeless people. You know, I don't think it's as bad. Well, I know it's not as bad as Los Angeles because that's the thing. I mean, you've seen that on Soft White Underbelly. They talk about how you know people just take a shit in the street now or something like that. So I don't like the fact that they try and lay it off on uh, the mental health of the person that didn't come from being impoverished because they always want to just blame drugs and all that other stuff. No, it's the poverty first. Deal with the poverty because that's what's going to cause the drug issues and all that other stuff, right?
Yeah,
You know, like
poverty.
somebody like Joe Rogan. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, go
that's a
ahead.
fucking that's a huge contributor to mental illness, poverty.
Yeah.
And I mean, that constant stress all the time, you
Oh
know, what
yeah.
that does to communities, man, that's just what that does to individuals in the
Yeah.
communities. You know,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, there's just, but you know, we can't seem to look at the problems. You know, it's like I said, I think there was a time in America we could have fixed the problems if we all got together and you voted for the right person. I just don't think it's, you know, something I've seen, like, and maybe Patrick can speak to this, but like the collapse of rural America, man. It's just
Mm-hmm.
fucking, you go outside the
Oh,
big city,
it,
it's just havens for fucking drug abuse, fentanyl, alcoholism, spousal abuse. It's just
Yeah.
rampant. I mean, it's like it's just, and it's everywhere. Like I could go upstate New York, South Carolina, and it's just the rot is just palpable. And I just don't think there's anything can turn it around. You know,
yeah.
I don't think it's a matter of just, even if we had every resource we could, I just don't know. I don't know what it's going to take to save these communities. It's too endemic. It's been going on for too long. You know, it's everywhere outside the big cities, man. You just go 10 miles outside any major city, and well, maybe a little bit further than some of the big ones, but you see it. You know, well, where are you at, Patrick? You're in Bellingham.
I'm actually north now of that, so I live in a small town just on the border of Canada. Like it's in the U.S. I'm still in Washington State, but it's just right, like just north of me, a few hundred yards or just a little bit is the border. So I am like I go to Bellingham for work. We were both Kate and I living in downtown Bellingham for a little under a year. We were staying in an apartment there, and it was expensive and difficult to. There's the houseless problem is really a big thing, and it's gotten worse in cities like Bellingham. Seattle's obviously huge, so there's a big thing there too. But yeah, I do live in a more, I don't know, it's kind of rural. Yeah, it's Washington. Like it's interesting. You think we have stereotypes. I sometimes think stereotypically, unfortunately, and I have to try to break that down constantly because I go to like rural Washington and it feels a lot like rural Idaho. It's this, rural Oregon. It's like you project certain ideas onto places because, oh, Seattle is liberal or whatever, or Portland is liberal, but it's, most of the state is not, even if they have more voting power in cities. So yeah, I would say especially in Idaho, like I, I, I almost was. It was interesting to go back to Idaho last year. Kate and I went to a wedding, and then we went and
Oh, yeah, I
visited
remember
my
that.
family,
Yeah.
and we were in Boise, and then we went to
Mhm.
we went to where I'm from in rural Idaho, southern Idaho, and it was a bit I don't know, it's kind of a depressing town. Like it is depressed. It does feel depressed. It is depressed. A lot of people are poor. Um, it kind of feels like it's always felt that way, but it just feels. I think we have an idea of the rural areas too being kind of um, peaceful and calm, but there is this kind of sense it's not a very happy place to be. A lot of people are pretty desperate and pretty poor out there, and they tend to work for big corporations. They tend to work for big, like where I'm from, big dairies and big agricultural corporations, and they're just extracting and they're just, I don't know, it's not a happy place. Very very
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
there's a map. I saw it a couple years ago, but it just kind of reappeared somewhere on Facebook, I think it was, that has like the map of the US, and it's got like the largest employer for each state, and like Walmart is
Mhm.
like almost like a third of the fucking US, man. And like we
Yeah.
all know what Walmart does, you know, we all know Walmart fucking, you know, pushes people onto welfare and like doesn't support. So it's like if you're working for Walmart, man, you're just fucking, you're going nowhere. You're going nowhere.
Oh,
You're just working yourself into more poverty, man. You're just fucking, you know,
Yeah.
um,
yeah. And they got
that's
it
what I
down to
see.
science, how they'll move in, establish a store, kill off all the small mom and pop, if there aren't that many out there anymore, but then still kill all them off. People don't have nowhere else to work, so where are they gonna go? Walmart. And then they get all the tax breaks because they're a big corporation, right? So then we have to pay the amount for their rent and everything else that you or I, if we had a business, would pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all a rigged game, man. But you're right. Walmart is like they're killing it. They're
Yeah, man,
killing it.
they're fucking, they've got it. Target's not far behind them, man. We don't, the thing about my area, it's like this is kind of typical. Like New York is a lot more red than people think it is. And actually, the
They're
recent
in
election, I
California.
think 6 House seats,
Mm-hmm.
including the one I'm living in, flipped red. But like, because outside New York City and maybe Buffalo and a few places, it's pretty fucking red. I'm kind of in between here, So like, there's still like kind of a lot of liberals here, but like one of the things that they're like, well, we don't. There's no Walmart here. They won't allow Walmart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right, that's I was like, that's good, that's good. Like keep Walmart out. But there's Target, there's like Big
right.
Lots, there's there's 15,000 Starbucks, it's like it's just that typical like liberal, like, we can be small. We don't have Walmart, And you know what the thing is? The Walmart in the next county, that's where they go. Everybody just goes over into Orange County just because Rockland's one of the smallest counties. You just go, or you go to New Jersey and you just go. So it's just like it's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Well,
it's like just their line in the sand.
Yeah.
Just no Walmart, but everything else.
Right. Yeah. Well, but that's where we're gonna let. No Walmart. That's the hill we're gonna die. No Walmart.
Yeah, that's the hill we're gonna die.
It is funny, yeah. We always like pick one corporation that's doing pretty much what every other corporation's doing, but that one's the evil one. The Waltons that own the Walmarts, they're fucking terrible. They exploit their workers, and it's like, people work at a Target.
Like you said, you have to talk about that. Yeah, but then just like you were saying before, you'd have to look at capitalism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Patrick, I can't remember which one you guys were talking about. But then you would have to look at the capitalist system.
Yeah.
And that's like the third. No one wants to even talk about that. They'll talk about race. They'll talk about women's rights, but nobody talks about in mainstream society. Think about how many times I've even overheard people talk about climate change and things of that nature, even in Texas. But no one talks about capitalism. I mean, I don't think I've ever overheard a conversation where somebody was, even when I was around liberal folks, in California. No, they just assume that the system works, the economic system is sound, just a couple of things on the edges, and then it'll work out.
Yeah, I feel like that's the dividing line between leftists and liberals. It's like if you're capitalist or anti-capitalist, it's like if you're because liberals are like, well, we like capitalism, just needs to be tweaked a little bit, and so they don't question that at all. But outside that, socially, I agree. I concur with a lot of liberals in those issues, but like when it comes to capitalism, nope, they don't. Do you remember? I used to get, who I finally blocked him.
Oh, you did.
I did. It's I think you guys are going to find this hard to believe, and I find it hard to believe too. I've been on Facebook for I don't know, maybe 12 years now. Up until I have never had to block somebody.
Yeah,
I've unfriended, I've unfollowed, but I never had to block somebody. But he just got to be fucking Forrest. I think you were blessed to never have, gotten entangled with him. But he'd piss off everybody. He pissed off everybody. Like I get constant messages. Patrick was one of many. It was just like, who the fuck is this guy?
I wanted to add, like, how do you have I think you should make your online social spaces as like, I don't want to make it an echo chamber per se, but you don't want to be around too many antagonistic kind of people who have ill tempers and like want to make things miserable for everybody around them. Like that doesn't seem like a good thing. So
right, and he's a contrarian. Like he just wants to disagree just to disagree. It's not even like, hey, these are my principles and these are my and I disagree with you. Like that's understandable. But he just like he'll disagree with things that like I know him enough to know that like he doesn't even really disagree with it. He just wants to piss people off. And I got no of that. Like I said, I stopped arguing Facebook, even people that I just don't. I don't want to do it. It's just. It's not. It doesn't do anything. It's just. People just get more entrenched, and it's just. I end up feeling like shitty about it. Yeah,
it makes everybody feels bad. No one feels good about it. Nothing's
right. It just doesn't feel good. doesn't feel good. Like I've had some really, I'm sure you guys have too. You know, I had my life threatened a few years ago. I had someone
Oh,
who said
really?
if I ever came back to South Carolina, he was going to fucking shoot me in the face. You know,
Wow.
made incredibly incendiary, lewd, disgusting comments about my daughter.
Oh,
Lord have
yeah.
mercy.
Okay. Who
Yeah,
was this?
but this is somebody like he was. I have a friend I grew up with named Ken who lives. He's been living in Australia for 20 years, but he's I mean, he is fucking trailer trash. Like he's
Mm.
just so fucking South Carolina. His dad was fucking illiterate. His dad couldn't even fucking
Mm.
but and he ended up, you know, when I knew him, it was, you know, we were young and, you know, we just all we had in common was drugs and alcohol, which is enough when you're 21, whatever.
That
Anyway,
was
so
the
like
same for me. Yeah.
he turned to like a rabid right winger. I mean,
Oh.
just fucking totally rabid right winger. Because Australians, I don't know if you've heard of Australians. Like, I always thought Australians are like, oh, they're kind of like Europeans with like beaches. Like, no, they're like Americans,
Yeah,
man. They're
I
like,
found that out also. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I always thought
Yeah.
I was that was a shock to me years ago about how fucking white trash they are. But anyways, he got to be a rabid white winger, and I had made a comment on one of his pages, and a friend of his from South Carolina who I had no idea who he was. I just got into a, you know, back and forth again. Like this was years ago when I used to get involved in that. You know, these days I would fucking not even bother.
Mm.
But it got ugly. Ended up in a lot of bold letters. Like I said, he sent me messages. You know, he threatened my
Yikes.
life. I said he made this just absolutely horrific, and it just like it was really unsettling. You know, it was just really, and you know, like he was in South Carolina. You know, I was like, even though I was like, I knew that like I was never actually going to be threatened. Like, you know, I knew that like he was never going to like seek me out. At least I was kind of, I guess, hoping that.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, you know, it just really unsettling. It's like it's not who I want to, you know. And I've kind of realized that. I know we've kind of gone through this together. I kind of felt that way with a lot of the collapse next. You know what I mean? It's just like, you know, I don't know how much time I got left. You know, and like, you know, and it's not that I think that they're wrong. It's just that some of them are just completely nihilistic and
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
not it's not what how you know I want to be around people who um you know who are trying to live a good life, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and look out for each other and love and you know this is, you know, I just, you know, I just there's a lot of people out there I've just over the years I've distanced myself from, and like I said, sometimes it's not that I even think I don't think they're wrong. I just it's not how I want to, you know,
Yeah.
spend my days. You know.
Yeah. I'll be totally honest with you. I'm right there with you. I mean, there was a time when I did fall into a black hole. I'll admit that, you know, because, and the reason I fell into one is because I want to fix it, right? And I was thinking not too long ago, like, I'm an electrical engineer. I can fix it, right? So I kind of had that mentality with it. But now it's like, man, nope, just chill out, listen to my music, work out a little bit, you know, eat right, take care of myself, try and keep a roof over me and my dog's heads, right? And just do my best, man. That's it. You know, even when I talk with it about now, I'm not morbid when I talk about it. I'm just honest, right? But not like, oh, woe is me. Oh man, what are we gonna do? Why don't people care? I mean, nah, man, I'd rather like if we in New York, you know, I go check out a concert or something like that. You know, like you went out with your son. That's the good shit, right? You know, and that's what um I want to do more of, right? You know, I've been on lockdown for a while because of my dogs. To be quite honest with you, because I don't even trust my ex-wife or, well, I'm not gonna say I don't trust them, but people put themselves first. You know, like I mean, like most people, it's not really ingrained in folks to really do something nice, even though these are my ex-wife's dogs, right? I didn't get them. You know, one of them, I think I told you about. I had a dog Pippa, and she had diabetes, and I have a little back room in there, and she had to shit. She used to shit every. I used to have to put down blankets and get her shit up in the morning, right? Lay down new blankets, right? Sometimes I have to wash them and whatnot. So I'll be up doing that. And with me, I'm gonna tell you when she passed away, I wanted to clean up her shit. I was like, man, I'm just cleaning up people shit just because I loved her so much. You know what I mean? So it's relationships like that. It be my dogs, my friends. That's all I want to do now, man. You know, like just be around good people. Right? You're right. I mean, like that pandemic happened. That was a good thing for me. That was a good thing for me. All these crazy ass people that moved on, talking about the pandemic and all that. Man, I'm glad it got rid of swath of them.
Yeah,
And you all
there's a few
know,
silver linings in the pandemic, and one of them was
yeah.
we got to see some people's true colors that came out in that. And yeah, man, when the shit hits the fan, man, that's when people, they rise and they fall. That's when you can, you really see them come out. I got, I through this whole experience and through a lot of things, I feel like I got a good circle of people, and it's kind of in concentric circles. It's like I got some people here, some people like y'all out there, and it's um I'm just careful now. I'm careful who I'm open, but I'm careful who I bring in, you know what I mean? And
Oh yeah.
we've all been burned, and like I said, I don't I'll be 54 this year. It's the year my brother died from drinking, which is another reason why I, thought like shit, man. I don't know how much longer I got. I'm pretty sure. I hope I'll make it to this year. He was already in a shit.
You
I
better,
think it's
man, because
suicide. He waited too
we
long.
got our getaway. You better make it because we got our getaway. So you
I
take
know,
care
I
of yourself.
know, I know.
Yeah.
I
Like we gotta start planning that soon. Shit.
Well,
No.
I mean, we really do have to seriously sit down and talk about it,
Yeah.
and figure out like where it would, because again, we are all over the place, right? So like, where would we meet? Like that would be the thing, and I don't know.
One place we not meeting, Texas. Fuck this.
Okay, Texas is off the list. Okay,
Texas off the list.
all
No.
right. Well,
No. You don't
I mean,
vacation in Texas.
I know it's far from New York, but like it's beautiful out here. I mean, Washington's gorgeous. It would be. I would love for y'all to be out here. It'd be
Yeah,
fun.
I
But
mean,
just,
yeah. I mean, for me, because if we can get, because you and Colin
mm-hmm.
and like I think three
You
or
and
four of
Colin and
y'all.
Rob are relatively close. Relatively.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right, yeah. So I think that would probably be the best thing and most effective if we try and do that. So
Right, because you three are kind of already in the Northwest. Yeah, it would make more sense
correct.
that be a
Yeah,
Northwest. We're all
But
around
then
here.
Bill's got to travel all across the U.S. to get here, and then Forrest got to travel half the country to get here. It's just
that's
like,
cool. No, I mean, to be honest with you, I need to start doing a little bit more traveling anyhow. I mean, there was a time,
okay.
man, I never forget. I was so whacked out. I used to think about how much oil and gas I was using in my car every day I got into. And then I was thinking, like, just a few months ago, I like, man, I haven't thought about that in years. So the mental clarity I have now is just so much better.
That's good.
My emotional state is a whole lot better, man.
Good.
So and it's been a process. It's been a process. Now I just want to spend this year just working on me, working out. I don't even know if I want to date anybody right now. I just want to just chill, work on me, come back, not really do anything with anybody until next year sometime. Right now, I just want to concentrate on,
Yeah, that's good. I feel like that's kind of, I feel that way about this year too. I feel like it's, getting through last year was kind of hard. So this year is going to be about making things better. I had to go through, it wasn't like a super serious issue, but I was having some back issues last year that involved physical therapy. And I got through that. And now I'm like, okay, well, now I don't have this thing in the way of me exercising or getting in shape again, So I think there's this sense that a lot of us are feeling of like, let's get through the things we were going through last year and try to get back on some kind, both of you quit drinking. So if we do a gathering, no alcohol, no drugs, unfortunately.
No, I mean,
No, you can.
no, man. No, I don't want anybody to not have no fun around me,
I might make an exception for that gathering.
Okay. So we'll have one exception. Okay.
But yeah, I feel like it's been a really difficult 2020, 2021. It was really difficult, and I feel you for it. I feel like, and I think we're all in alignment here. I feel like this is the year where it's just like, obviously there's still shit going on. It's never going to
Oh
end.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
But I feel like
Yeah.
this year where it's like, yeah, man, like we've been through a lot of shit. It's been difficult. Like we need to get ourselves back together. I feel like really got broken apart the last and that culminated with getting COVID
Yeah.
at the end of 2022. And the last 2 years is it's I've shifted my perspective. I've been really thinking a lot about how much things I've really shifted my perspective on, or just changed my mind about altogether in the last 2 years. Like
Mhm.
Mhm.
it's really been, like I said, it's been an eye opener. I've
Mhm.
really I'm a really different person than I was. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess arguably we all are that way, but like I really
Oh
think
yeah,
about the
oh yeah,
2019 bill is like I just it's so when you see like the Facebook memories that come up, it's just like I'm like, man, who was that, man? I was like, oh, that was just 2019. That was like, who was
yeah,
he? Like
yeah.
like
I feel the
I'm in
exact
such a
same way.
different place now. Such a
Oh
different,
yeah, bingo, bingo.
and,
I
and
mean,
it's, I feel it with you guys too. I feel that.
oh, I
Yeah.
mean, I had a, not a conversation, a text conversation with my ex-wife, and I told her because the past three guys she's seen, or I said, how much do I have in common with those three guys? I said zero. So I said, I told her, and I don't mean her. I said, I married you for my own reasons, which is really that I wanted to take care of somebody because my mom had died, and I was looking to take care of somebody. And I shouldn't have done that. But I said, I don't want to know what reasons why you married me, but you evidently didn't love me, right? I said, I care about you, always will. You always have a special place in my heart. But stop, because she got mad at me about something. I said, look, I'm not into no drama. I just wanted to
Mhm.
live my life, man. So, and I thought she was gonna take me back and say something mean. She was just totally cool after that. Because she knew I was right. You know what I mean? It's like you just reach a place in your life where you just understand. You get it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's exactly why. So
I feel like just with the pandemic, we've gone 3 years, and there's a feeling like we don't know what the. I think there was some anticipation that it was like going to wrap up, or there's some conclusion or something to it, and that isn't happening. And so I think there's sort of a settling that's happening for me. Well, yeah, the past 3 years have been very revealing, seeing where people's priorities are, what they're
mhm.
going to focus on, and how they're going to act in a time like this. And now that that's all like revealed and sort of settled, I like, for me, looking through the lens of the podcast, I'm like, man, there's half the fucking people I've had on the podcast I would never bring on again because I've seen what their priorities are, and I'm like, I don't want that. But for me personally, yeah, I just think there's a settling, and there's kind of I feel like I personally just feel like I moved through something, and like now we're not at the other side, but there's this other like place that I'm in now where I'm like, okay, what is community? And those words used so often, it almost has no meaning, but like, what does community look like, and how can that exist in this sort of space? And so that's what I'm really thinking about, like moving forward. And I think this podcast that we're doing now has been kind of part of that process, because we've all been through this together. I mean, I know Billy, you weren't there at the beginning, but like we started it right like during 2020. So like
Yeah, that sounds all right.
beginning of that shit, and now
Yeah,
we're kind of now into 2023, and it's like, damn,
yeah,
like
yeah.
where are we sitting now? So
I
um
think with me, when it comes to COVID, I just learned it's like one of those things you just learn to live with. You don't hate
mhm,
it. You don't
mhm,
get mad. You don't get angry. It's just something that we now have to cope and deal with. And a lot of the people that I know aren't my friends anymore turn into very petulant children, you know,
yep,
close to just getting up and stomping their feet. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And I think for me, especially when I think about my mother, the fact that I took care of her for so long, and I miss it. You know, I miss it. I really do. I miss her. But the fact that people stopped, there was a case, and I don't know if this happened. A guy had to get the vaccine in order to give a kidney to his child, and he didn't get the vaccine.
mhm,
You got a child, and you are so petty.
mhm,
You won't even take the vaccine. You can't get more of a sick, twisted individual in there. You know, your son may die. He's on dialysis, and you won't even take the vaccine shot. That's how deranged these people are. You know,
Yeah,
they
that
shouldn't
the
even
whole
have to take
American
it.
individual, looking out for me. The pandemic definitely blew that open, and which isn't surprising as America as a whole. It was just surprising to see some people who I thought I knew. It's just like I
Right.
thought, I really thought you weren't that guy. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
thought you were different, but Patrick, I'm curious who your shit list is. You don't have to say it now. I'm curious, like who's your most regrettable. Because you've had some, it's funny because I think about that. I know, I've been listening to your podcast for maybe this might be 5 years now. I think it's around 2018, maybe 2017. Um,
Mm,
and you've had a lot of guests on,
mhm.
you know, and yeah, I know some of them on you would definitely not. But yeah, I'm curious
Yeah.
about that. That's another
Yeah.
conversation.
Oh, I don't know. I'm almost at the point now where I almost feel like fine, like I could talk about it. I mean, I think